But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Here, we will revisit one of man's greatest accomplishments in technology and engineering, known as Apollo 11. Throughout the 60s, America was becoming divided while experiencing one of the most turbulent decades yet, and we had been greatly trailing the Soviets in the space race of the Cold War. However, on the evening of July 20th, 1969, all tensions were forgotten with mankind's greatest feat. With the hard work of NASA's brilliant engineers and 3 very brave men, America became the first country to put a human being on the moon. With only months left in the decade, America accomplished its seemingly impossible goal, set by the late JFK many years earlier, of landing on the moon. Today, we will speak to the 3 great men who make up the crew of Apollo 11, and many more to take a closer look at the profound impact this achievement had on our nation. With one small step for man, America accomplished one giant leap for mankind.
2, 1, 0. All engines running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
We begin with the interview of 3 of the most well-known astronauts in the country, the crew of Apollo 11, Commander Neil Armstrong, Lunar Module Pilot Buzz Aldrin, and Command Module Pilot Michael Collins. Hello, what an honor it is to finally meet you all.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
What is your most vivid memory from this mission?
It was a very spectacular sight when the sun was eclipsed by the moon's shadow as we flew around the dark side of the moon.
For me, it was while I watched the ascent of the lunar module from the moon outside my window. The lunar horizon, the spacecraft, and the Earth were all in a row, and I thought it was something that would rarely be seen again.
I think it was during the first few moments that Neil and I touched down. We still had many things to do, and we had to announce to the world that we had landed. But we paused for a moment and just gazed out the window. It was a really magnificent view.
Neil and Buzz, during the lunar landing, I understand there were a few technical difficulties you experienced. Can you please explain?
We were about 4 minutes into the landing sequence when I heard the first alarm. I tried to get a reading on the alarm from Mission Control, but they had no idea what the problem was at first.
The radio connection back to Houston just kept fading in and out, and if it got much worse, we may have had to abort the mission.
The master alarm began to go off, but Mission Control finally realized that the LEM's computer was trying to do so much at once, and it was warning us that it might shut down. However, Houston said that despite the risks, it was the safest to proceed with the landing.
After that, however, we realized we had overshot our trajectory, and instead of our planned landing site, we were heading for a vast crater field with truck-sized boulders.
It was then that I began to fly the LEM manually. I luckily found a smooth spot on the surface and only landed with 30 seconds left of fuel. Mission Control was very worried that we were going to have to abort the mission or crash on the lunar surface. Once we landed, I think all of us were able to stop holding our breath and, take a deep breath again, relax.
Well, I'm sure it was all worth it because of what came next.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot. It's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
Boy.
Okay, we're going to be busy for a minute.
Armstrong is on the moon, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon on this July 20th, 1969. There it is, a U.S. flag on the surface of the moon.
Yes, indeed. Beautiful, just beautiful.
Now, when you returned from the moon, did you have any idea that you would become such eminent national heroes and celebrities?
There's no way we would have been able to imagine all the adoration and appreciation that awaited us back home. I had never seen that amount of national pride in my entire life.
During the parade, I was very inspired to see how everyone was unified again. I was honored to be part of the event that affected the entire country in this way.
After a long decade with many tragedies and hardships, it appeared that the country was splitting down the middle. We seemed to be trailing far behind in the space race, and Cold War tensions and fears of communist influences were devastating the nation. However, after Apollo 11, the pride for the United States was overwhelming. Everyone was just so proud to be a part of the most powerful country on the planet.
Was the greatest effect Apollo 11 had on the country?
I believe that our mission and NASA's hard work permanently altered the public's sense of what a group of human beings dedicated to a single goal was capable of accomplishing.
As the astronauts of the Apollo program, you were often in the spotlight and were quite famous all over the world. Although many Americans sometimes found it hard to relate to you. They were not able to understand the technical terminology of the Apollo program, and they found it difficult to relate to the astronauts because they saw you as all-American heroes with unbreakable focus and determination. Was there ever a time during the mission that you had a little fun instead of focusing on the tasks at hand?
Well, I'm sure we can think of a few times.
Hippity-hoppity, hippity-hoppity, hippity-hopping over hill and dale. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. Hippity-hopping along. Dum-dum. Dum-da-dum-dum-dum. Dum-da-dum-dum-dum. I like to skip along. I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. Now, May.
In the later Apollo moon landings, there was a great decrease in public attention. What's your opinion on America's quickly fading interest in the space program?
I find it sad that no other mission received as much attention as ours did. The magnitude of each new moon landing excelled at an extraordinary rate, and by Apollo 15, the crew lived on the moon for a full 3 days. Unfortunately, I think by that time, many Americans felt that the moon landing had almost become a been there, done that type deal.
It's true. The Apollo missions had become predictable to the public, and even a higher quality camera and impressive landscapes of the moon couldn't make America pay attention to the moonwalks in their entirety.
Only in America would landing on the moon become something seen as routine and predictable. Now, I have one final question for you. What was the most impressive part of man's first moonwalk?
I don't think I'll ever forget seeing the Earth from the moon. It looked so small that we were able to cover all of it with just our thumb. Seeing the Earth floating in the blackness of space truly put it in perspective for us how small and alone we really are when compared to this vast universe. It made me realize how important it is to make sure we take care of our small home.
I know the entire world shares your same feeling. That's it for our interview. Thank you so much for sharing your time and thoughts with us. Apollo 11 had a profound impact of increasing national pride and resolve after a long decade of setbacks. However, Apollo 11 also played a part in exposing the racial inequalities of our society. Many citizens questioned why we're spending so much money on the exploration of another world, but did not have the ability to provide equal rights to all citizens. Our government was spending billions of dollars to fund NASA, which was predominantly run by white older males, while still doing little to enforce desegregation of the country. African-American poet and musician Gil Scott-Heron expressed how Apollo 11 was viewed by the nation's disadvantaged in a poem titled Whitey on the Moon. We will now play a short excerpt from his poem.
I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon.